Welcome to Bouncing Back. I want to say thank you to everyone who had been asking me, when are we going to hear this, your story of bouncing back from domestic abuse? When are we going to hear the story? Well, I must confess that the stories I'm about to tell, they are not that easy to tell because it's like opening up a scarf and it's it pains and it hurts. So I was also trying to get myself to be emotionally stable to tell the stories I'll be telling. But from now on, I'm on out to tell you to hear stories. The second point I need to mention here is the fact that, please, these stories is about me. I do not have any intention to castigate anyone um, about my story. But I just felt after that experience of Kusinachi, I should share a little bit of my mistake, my foolishness, my error, and also the support system I had, and what we can do as a society and organizations to help people to take decisions and stand by them. That's my primary focus. If in the process it affects some people, please, my apologies. um Before I go on, if for any reason you've not subscribed to my channel and you really would like to hear my story, please, why don't you just press that red button before you, so that when I upload new episode, you will be automatically updated. Well, today I would like to begin my story by identifying one fundamental error. Well, that's my own belief, that's my opinion that I made. And that is the fact that my father said no to my marriage. And he was very emphatic about it. He was consistent about it for 3 solid years. Each time you revisit the issue, he will just tell you no. He didn't want me to marry a stranger. He wanted me to marry within reach, because I was the only daughter for my mom, and also I am one of his old age child. So he was very, very fond of me. But anyway, it's not as if I disobeyed him outrightly as as per rebellion. I didn't know more than that. That's the truth. I said no. I told him that I believe this is the will of God for my life. I have prayed about it, and I just know this is where God is leading me. So for 3 solid years, we stood on the same points. He was on his point, and I was on mine. But one thing happened. So many different things really happened during the process, because at a point, everybody really, once my father said no, nobody wanted to say no to my father's will, whatever I wanted. When I was living with my uncle, where I used to spend my holidays in the school, my uncle sent me back home. That since my father will say no, I better go back home and stay with him. Then I went for my holiday in another place with my elder brother. My elder brother said, as long as I want to be disobedient to my dad, I will not stay in his house. It was a family thing, and everybody, that's the way we do. We just want everything to be right. But so I now decided, and I went home and I was staying with my dad through that vacation period. I would keep praying, I cried, I wept, I fasted, whatever I did, so many things. But my father never said yes. So, and I waited that I was not going to bring another man, because this is the man I believe was the will of God. The last action my father took that ought to have given me a very serious thought about my life and about him is that when I was about to go for my last session in the university, my father refused to pay my school fees. That fateful day, early morning, which how I used to collect my fees when I'm leaving, is the last time I will collect it. When it's time, I'll just go, okay, Baba, I'm on my way this morning. He already knew. So he will just pray for me and bless me and give me my school fees, and then I'll be gone. But this day, he prayed for me. And now the school fees was not part of the prayer. I said, Father, Baba, what about my school fees? He said, that man that you want to marry without my consent, So as long as you want to marry him, he should take over your school fees. It was like I was like somebody watching a movie, and already I was to resume. There's nothing I could do. My mother of blessed memory had to just, take one or two decisions very fast that morning and source my school fees and gave me the money, and I was able to go. I am very, very grateful to everyone who helped me during my experience in an abusive relationship in such a way that I am kept alive, and I was able to give that woman a befitting burial because she stood with me. So the story continued, and nobody will persuade Baba about my choice of a man I wanted to marry. At a point, people began to talk to my mom, and the pastor spoke to my mom. Then my mom came on board. But my mom said, uh, she didn't have any objection again, but she could not go any further until my father said yes. Now we will talk to my father. But one day, the day came, 3 a.m., I just overheard them talking. My elder brother went to my father in the midnight to have a chat with him, and I caught them in the discussion. I just placed my head like this. I was trying to listen. My brother told my father, please leave this girl alone. Allow her to marry whoever she wants to marry, because these are new generations. They no longer choose for them, they choose for themselves. So whoever she brings home, just allow her. Our duty is to support her, and we do not need anything from you apart from your blessing. Your blessing is the most important aspect of this marriage, and we need you to give us your blessing, then allow us to go ahead and do every other thing that needs to be done to allow this girl to get married. That was what finished the discussion. Few weeks later, my father called me and said, okay, go and bring the man. And I brought the man. I also must be very honest that when I brought my husband, my father accepted him. He was a man of his word. He accepted him and he loved him up till the time my father died. Both before we got married and after our marriage, anytime my husband went home to see my parents, with the few times he went, they slept on the same bed with my dad. And even while my father was dying on his, the few days of his exit to glory, I was privileged to go home 2 days before he left. The only person he was asking me for was my husband. Go and call your husband. Go and call your husband. I said, you can't see him now. And that time also, there was no mobile phone. So there was no any way I could reach out to get him to connect with him. That was the extent to which my father said no, and the extent also to which he accepted him when he said yes. But there is something about elders. When you are carried on the shoulder of a giant or fathers, you will be able to see far. Fathers are feathers. They provide for us what they see, we don't see. I don't know what he saw, but I believe he must have seen the future, that this thing is not going to work out. But there was nothing he could do to stop me. He had to accept what we brought to him, because there is the good will of God, there is the acceptable will of God, and there is the perfect will of God. I don't believe that mine was the perfect will, because every good and perfect will comes from the Lord, and it does not add sorrow to it. Anyway, that was what happened with my dad. I want to say this before I close for today to our young people. This generation of independence, we just choose, we do what we have. Please put your parents in view. And if your parents says no, you may not, just think about it. Take a little bit time to think about it. No one can love you like your mom. No one can love you like your dad. No spiritual leader can love you as much as your parents can love you. Anyone who attempts or try to tell you they love you more than these two people, I don't believe they are correct. So every parent wants the best for his child. And secondly, you should there is no girl or boy that is worth breaking your family relationship. A relationship you have built over 20 years, some of you 27, 30 years, and then just because now your dad and whatever, they're still waiting to take their decision. You say, I can go, I just go, let's go and marry. We can even marry without them. Oh, please don't make that mistake. Wait for parental consent, wait for parental blessing. I believe that the blessings of the Lord makes rich and add no sorrow to it. It is sorrow when a man comes to your life and he brings trouble into your family. It's not supposed to be. God is not an author of confusion. Lastly, to any woman or man who may be, whose story may relate with mine, and you are still struggling, I want to pray that the mercy I obtain, you will obtain. God is always willing to help us out of every trouble. He turns my mess into a message, and so will He turn yours also, if only you will give Him the opportunity. Don't forget, it doesn't matter how deep your fall, you can always rise to any height. It's just a matter of taking decision how far you want to go and what price you are willing to pay to get there. Bouncing back stronger, wiser, and better. Don't give up. There is hope for you.